President Cyril Ramaphosa has conveyed his condolences to the families of those killed in 2 Tavern shootings today. 15 people died when gunmen opened fire in a tavern in the Nomzamo informal settlement in Orlando West in Soweto. And in another similar incident, this time in Pietermaritzburg, 4 people lost their lives. President Ramaphosa has called on security agencies and community members to work together to bring the perpetrators to book. SABC News reporter Offentse Setimo is in Soweto and joins us now. Offentse, you've been watching the story since this morning, speaking to various voices. Have they been able to identify the men who were in the quantum who are said to be behind the shooting?
Thank you very much, Bongiwe, and a good evening to your viewers. Well, what I can tell you is that I think it's still early stages from what we heard and from what we gathered actually on the streets. The information is still very thin. The police are still trying to gather in as much information as they can. We heard the provincial police commissioner, General Elias Mawela, also saying that they have actually dispatched a team of detectives that's actually on the ground, and also intelligence gatherers who are actually on the ground, trying to establish exactly what could have transpired, which members of the gang could have actually done what actually happened here. So at this present moment, none of the suspects have actually been identified. In fact, in an interview that we did this morning, General Elias Mawela was also saying that, you know, this area has been without electricity for over the past 4 years. So it was dark on that particular, yesterday it was dark, and apparently the tavern was operating using a generator. So to a certain extent, visibility was very poor. So even the people that were inside the tavern could not identify those suspects at this present moment. So at this present moment, it's a big no. They haven't identified any of the suspects that arrived here in the white quantum and started shooting indiscriminately at the patrons that were at Mdlalose Tavern here.
And Offense, we know that around 23 people were shot. At some point it was 14 dead and 9 injured. Now we understand it's 15 who have sadly died, and it's now at 8 of those who've been wounded. Do we know what the latest is with those who are still recovering post this incident?
Yes, at this present moment, we understand that there is 2 who are still in a critical condition. It was 3 earlier, and unfortunately, one of those that was in a critical condition actually died, you know, dropping the number of those that have been admitted in hospital to 8. As you know, that it was 9 earlier, and 3 were actually in a critical condition. But following the announcement that the fatalities have risen to 15, there hasn't been any update to come forward to say that, you know, anything has happened. And I think maybe it's a blessing that there's no update that more fatalities might have been recorded. But at this present moment, the figures have stood at 15, and we're hoping they will remain there.
And Offense, I saw you a little earlier on speaking to various officials, including, you know, Lieutenant General Elias Mawela, who is the Gauteng Provincial Commissioner as well, talking about this incident and how they're going to do everything to ensure that they leave no stone unturned when it comes to this investigation. But there was also the MEC for Community Safety, Faith Mazibuko.
Yes, absolutely. She also reiterated her statement she made earlier that, you know, the proliferation of firearms in Gauteng actually the result of all these mass shootings that we are seeing actually go on the increase. You know, the last crime stats that are based in Gauteng that were released by General Elias Mawela, we saw areas in murder rate increase to over 700%. Some areas was 200% murder. You know, so she was attributing that to the proliferation of firearms that are here. As you know, that there was high caliber weapons that were actually used here, and in fact the community are saying that even the police is powerless against some of these gangs, as the informal settlements where they actually reside, it's a no-go area for police, of which they tell them blatantly that they are actually afraid for their lives to actually go and tackle those criminal elements there. So you can imagine, to a certain extent, the community feels vulnerable. Some were even saying that, you know, in the wee hours, like at night, when there's criminality happening here and they would call the police come up with all sorts of excuses, you know, saying that they're fearing for their lives, drives, or saying they don't have a van, or saying there's not enough manpower to react to the criminality that's happening here, which puts to question, the contract that the SAPS definitely has with the public to serve and protect.
Have we heard from the tavern owner?
At this present moment, no, he's been incognito. We don't even know who the person is, but he has not commented at this present moment as yet. And as you heard, the tavern was legal, and they were also operating within the operational time of the taverns. As this thing happened around 12:30, and they were telling us that, taverns are supposed to close around 1 o'clock. But he has not made, or she has not made, any comment at this particular moment.
All right, Offentse, let's leave it there with you for now. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed.